by the violence we speak of. Austin, what are the people telling you?
Yeah, hey, Colin. So it's very easy to get wrapped up in the numbers of all of this. You know, we're talking about less than 2 days, 25 victims, and 8 separate reports about this. With this all being said, obviously, it's really about the people that this all impacts. And each person has a story and also a plea for help.
Several days later, a sign.
Thank God that it was there and not in one of the bedrooms where the kids were.
Of relief for Marcia.
More like a pop, 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 pop.
Friday night, she says she and her 3 grandchildren were inside her North Charlotte home, and out of the blue, she heard a gunfire over 6 times.
And I woke up and I saw the blue lights outside the house. I didn't know what was going on.
She says her grandchildren were safe, but emotionally broken.
It's just brought back some terrors and things that he has night terrors and stuff, and it's not good.
Outside, a shattered window, glass left on the ground, and 4 bullet holes in her walls.
I want to get my family out of Charlotte.
Marcia is not alone.
Like, there's one.
Her neighbor's home also riddled with gunfire, along with 7 other reports of shootings into occupied dwellings in just 2 days. She says a physical sign of a problem.
My grandkids having to live through this it's tough.
A sigh of relief.
2 of them have bedrooms on the front side.
But a deep sigh, hoping for change.
Again, so for weeks we've been reaching out to CMPD for more information on this program, which is called Switch, and we didn't get any of our questions really answered, and each time our interview request has also been denied. That's why we went to the City Council trying to get more information. Now, because of this and what we've learned from Ajmira, we do know a few other things, but more questions now. The first one is exactly how many investigators are being targeted towards Switch. Is there any information that they have thus far about how this is doing? And finally, is this supposed to stop crime before it happens or just arrest those who are criminals? But for now, we are live in Uptown. Austin Walker, WCNC Charlotte.
Austin, thank you. Tonight.
Question everything and verify with WCNC Charlotte. Taking questions, seeking experts for the answers, and sharing the knowledge to distinguish fact from fiction.
With this breaking news, we're seeing a lot of claims on social media.
No question left unanswered.
Police say this is true. All 4 of those shootings are connected.
Clearing up the confusion and bringing the truth into focus. WCNC Charlotte is guiding the way.
Of course, we're in the middle of tax season, and that means scammers are looking to take your refund. Between spoofing and robocalls, what should you look out for, I guess I should ask this time of year? WCNC Charlotte's Megan Bragg verifies.
He received a message from a viewer sharing a voicemail stating they owed back taxes. You may have received one too, or a few.
And this is a notification call from U.S. Department of Financial Relief Services.
I'm calling to inform you that now you can apply to have them forgiven with the Zero Tax Debt Program.
Are these real, and what should you do if you get one? To answer this, we went to the Internal Revenue Service and the Federal Trade Commission. These voicemails include a phone number to call where your taxes may be forgiven. This is an attempt for you to share your personal information. The IRS says you will always get a letter in the mail from them first, not through email, text, or social media. You also won't hear from a private collection agency unless you have unpaid tax debts. The FTC says if you receive a call from someone claiming to be from the IRS, do not give out any personal information over the phone. And if you know or think you owe taxes, call the IRS to validate the call. You can also file a complaint with the FTC to report IRS scams. You can find more tips inside the WCNC Charlotte mobile app. Just click on the story. With your Verify, I'm Megan Bragg.
It's time to connect the dots when we make the news make sense. Women tend to outlive men, but have you ever wondered why?
In the U.S., women live about 5 years longer than men. Let's connect the dots. Genetics may play a role. Research suggests that having 2 X chromosomes provides extra protection against aging. Hormones can also be a factor. That's because before menopause, women's immune system
is here in attendance as well. We're here today to celebrate and commemorate and honor the legacy of young Liam Lagunas, a 6-year-old who on June 26, 2021, was killed in a crash just down the street from us on Highway 74 in a collision that resulted from a street racing incident. On that evening, June 26th, Liam Lagunas was a normal 6-year-old riding in a car with his father, headed towards Kings Mountain, and at the same time, he encountered Gracie Eaves and Donnie Cobb. They were two strangers who did not know one another, and they made a decision that cost this community greatly, cost the Lagunas family, a cost that they are still feeling today. Gracie Eaves and Donnie Cobb and their respective vehicles decided to spontaneously engage in street racing. Gracie Eaves was driving a Dodge Challenger, and Mr. Cobb was operating a sporty Audi sedan. The two of them were operating at speeds more than 80 miles per hour, actually in excess of 100 miles per hour at some points, when Miss Eaves' vehicle collided with Mr. Cobb's and sent Mr. Cobb's vehicle across the median into the path of Santiago Lagunas and his son Liam. Their lives were forever changed that day. I think I speak for a lot of the law enforcement who worked that case and for the folks in the community, and also members of the DA's office who worked the case. Our lives were changed as well. We prosecuted Mr. Cobb and Miss Eaves. We prosecuted them as aggressively as the law at the time permitted, and since then we have sought changes to the law. Mr. Cobb specifically was charged and convicted of second-degree murder. He is currently serving a sentence of 22 to 28 years in North Carolina prison. Gracie Eaves, on the other hand, did not have the extensive record that Mr. Cobb did. She pled guilty and was convicted of involuntary manslaughter and also felony hit and run. She received a sentence of roughly 4 to 6 years in prison, which she is also currently serving. I want to especially recognize Stephanie Hamlin, who is here today, for assisting in that prosecution and leading with that, in addition to myself, and also Daisy Yepson, who was the legal assistant who worked the case and worked with young Liam's family. If you look back to the news reports and look back to some of the conversations from that time when we were prosecuting this case, there were a lot of quotes from Liam's mother, Brandy, who's present here today, about wanting to make a positive change in the law that would perhaps one day prevent something like this from happening, and Lord forbid if it ever did, give us an opportunity to hold folks like Gracie Eaves more accountable, to make it easier for prosecutors across the state to hold street racers accountable for their actions, and hopefully by doing so discourage others from engaging in that same action. There was one legislator here in Gaston County who has listened to that request, Representative John Torbett. I want to commend him for listening to the concerns of my office, to the family, and also to the input and concerns from law enforcement across the state. Representative John Torbett has served for over 15 years in our state legislature. At this time, it is my distinct honor and privilege to introduce him and have him come and speak a little bit about this bill, which we call Liam's Law. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. District Attorney. My name is John Torbett. I'm a proud resident of Stanley, North Carolina. It's an honor to be here. I'm humbled and honored more than I can express by District Attorney Page to be given this opportunity to work with me on this law. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an attorney. I relied on the professionalism of our District Attorney and his office to help with this. Never before, and we do a lot of things as General Assembly members, but never before have I been so honored and humbled to take on such a law. Yesterday, in Raleigh, North Carolina, we filed House Bill 246, Liam's Law. And with the passage of Liam's Law, his name will be memorialized forever in the halls and the general statutes of our great state here in North Carolina. I'm not going to dwell on the sad part of Liam. I'm going to dwell on the good part, the future, forever memorialized. Rest in peace, my friend.
Again, thank you, Representative Torbett. Thank you for caring about this family, for caring about all the other Liams and Santiagos across the state who want nothing more than to be able to drive to and from home safely. And so thank you. As a lawyer, I want to talk a little bit about the legal ramifications and what we hope to accomplish and achieve with Liam's Law. This was a street racing case. And so what Liam's Law first and foremost hopes to accomplish is to hold street racers accountable for their conduct. Their conduct endangers mothers, fathers, children, and we have seen and lived that firsthand, and this family lives it every day. What we seek to accomplish specifically when it comes to street racing is threefold, actually. We've looked to create new offenses involving street racing, new felony offenses. Currently on the books, we have speed competition, prearranged and willful speed competition. We have misdemeanor offenses. The legislature has done a lot of good here in recent years addressing some of the street takeovers that you've seen in other parts of the state, especially east of Gaston County. But this builds on that initiative. It builds on those efforts to make our roads even safer. Specifically, Liam's Law creates a new felony offense for street racing resulting in serious injury. Santiago Lagunas suffered serious injuries at the hands of Donnie Cobb and Gracie Eaves. To bring him justice for his injuries, we had to stretch the law of assault with a deadly weapon to try to make it apply to his specific case. Prosecutors across the state won't have to do that if we pass Liam's Law and bring it into action. We need only to prove that these folks were street racing, that they caused an injury to another innocent civilian. The other thing, and I think this applies a lot more with Gracie Eaves' case, for example, as we created a new offense for street racing that results in death. It is now a B2 felony, or would be under Liam's Law, a B2 felony which would be consistent with second-degree murder, the same felony classification as second-degree murder in North Carolina. Prosecutors across the state would simply prove that folks engaged in street racing and that someone died as a proximate cause of that street racing activity. One of the difficulties in the prosecution that we had with respect specifically to Gracie Eaves was that she did not have the extensive traffic history that Mr. Cobb did. The legal problem that created for this district attorney's office in prosecuting that case was that that one of the issues to elevate the charge to second-degree murder, one element in particular is malice. And so that was one of the difficulties that we faced with respect specifically to Ms. Eaves. Liam's Law erases and removes that barrier to prosecution. We need not prove malice in a case like this. If it were to happen again, we'd simply have to prove that folks were street racing and that someone died as a result of that activity. There are other objectives when it comes to Liam's Law that we hope to achieve. One is the creation of a new reckless driving offense, a felony offense, a Class I felony for reckless driving that results in serious injury. Over the past couple years, as DA, I've seen a couple scenarios where folks, maybe they were suspected of impaired driving, blood results came back negative, we could not prove impairment, we were stuck with essentially reckless driving, which is currently a Class II misdemeanor in North Carolina. Class II misdemeanor punishment that in most cases will carry court costs and a fine. For those cases involving reckless driving that result in serious injury, under Liam's Law, they would now be a felony. What that does for prosecutors and for victims across this state is creates an opportunity for prosecutors to hold that conduct more accountable and also provide a greater opportunity for victims to receive compensation, especially in cases where there is no insurance available to those motorists and those victims. The last thing that Liam's law seeks to do is to change the law with respect to felony hit and run resulting in death. That would now be a Class D felony under this particular law, under Liam's law. Right now, as it stands, it is currently a Class F felony. The law makes no difference currently as it stands between a hit and run that results in serious injury and a hit and run that results in death. And what that does specifically, it gives incentive. The way the law is today, it provides incentive for drivers who are driving impaired, who might, in the case of a death, who cause a death, to leave the scene. Right now, if you are driving impaired in North Carolina and you kill someone, at a minimum, you could be charged with a Class D felony for felony death by motor vehicle. But as I think some of our law enforcement may talk to later today, they'll say there's often an incentive for folks to leave the scene of a crash. And by doing so, they don't call 911, they don't call for potential life-saving treatment or care for the other motorists that they've struck. They simply leave the scene because they are impaired. Right now, Liam's law would remove that incentive for folks to leave because they could be held accountable for the same way that a drunk driver who causes a death, the punishments would essentially be the same. And so again, by allowing our felony hit and run laws to mirror our drunk driving laws, we can hold folks more accountable and hopefully we can save lives. We've asked also some additional special guests to join us today to comment on Liam's law. The next folks that we've asked to speak would be Captain Gary Hogue with the Highway Patrol, and I believe he has some additional folks with him who are privy to this case to speak with you. Captain Hogue.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Gary Hogue. I am the captain for Troop H headquarters based out of Monroe. I am proud to stand here and join and be alongside the family, the offices and the agencies that are represented here today in an effort to keep North Carolina safe. We believe legislation that serves as a deterrent to those contemplating driving dangerously on our streets and highways only strengthens our enforcement efforts. We know the best way to keep the public safe comes from voluntary compliance, but with strong legislation and strict enforcement, we mirror those together and create an equation for safer travels on the roadways. Our members take their traffic safety initiative and mission very serious. Families, friends, fellow first responders, they travel along the same roadways as the general public, so we very much realize the importance of our role in preventing any type of catastrophic events that happen on the roadways. The State Highway Patrol is dedicated to keeping our roadways safe through continued educational and enforcement efforts, and we look forward to working together as part of making our state a safer place to travel. At this time, I'm going to introduce retired Sergeant Jason Gowdlock. He was the primary investigator on the night of the fatal crash, June 26, 2021.
Good afternoon. My name is Jason Gowdlock. I just retired from the Highway Patrol, where I proudly served for 16 years. Served in many capacities, the last one being sergeant here in Gaston County. I was a trooper on the night of June the 26, 2021, and responded to and investigated the collision involving Liam Lagunas. Just to give you a display of how this collision occurred, it occurred on US 74, just west of Spare Springs Road. Gracie Eaves, driving a 2016 Dodge Charger. At the time, Gracie was 19 years old. She's traveling westbound. Donnie Cobb is driving a 2013 Audi two-door sports car. Gracie is in the right-hand travel lane. Mr. Cobb comes up behind her and they accelerate in excess of 100 miles an hour. As they come through the curve just before Spare Springs Road, Gracie makes contact with Mr. Cobb's vehicle on the right passenger side. This impact at that speed causes Mr. Cobb to travel through a 47-foot grass median, which he went eastbound in the westbound lanes, where he collided with Mr. Santiago Lagunas' vehicle. Liam was in the back seat, properly restrained. The impact from Mr. Cobb's vehicle with Santiago's vehicle caused Santiago's vehicle to rotate 180 degrees and go back in the opposite direction, facing eastbound in the westbound lanes 43 feet. Mr. Cobb's vehicle then flipped over the guardrail and caught on fire. We had several, I think my last count was 12 witnesses, stopped at the scene. I arrived at the scene 2 minutes after the call come out. Mr. Cobb had already been removed from his vehicle, and Liam was in the roadway. I began my investigation along with several members from Troop H District 1 here in Gaston County, to include Trooper Tim Gagnon, Sergeant Jason Postel, retired Trooper Lance Randall, and then the North Carolina Reconstruction Unit here based out of Newton. Through our investigation and search warrants with the Carolinas Medical Center, it was determined that Mr. Cobb was under the influence of methamphetamine and benzodiazepines. Through those, based off of our investigation, those search warrants and the information that those search warrants provided, I've met with District Attorney Page and Ms. Hamlin. We discussed charges as related to both Gracie Eaves and Donnie Cobb. That Mr. Cobb, as DA Page talked about earlier, was charged with second-degree murder. As the law it stood then, because he was impaired and because of his prior traffic history, that was the most appropriate charge. Had Liam's law been in effect and Mr. Cobb had not been impaired, he would have been charged with the same type of offense. Had Mr. Cobb not been impaired that night, Mr. Cobb doesn't get charged with second-degree murder, and he's looking at, like Miss Eaves, probably involuntary manslaughter. I think it's important to understand the consequences of what myself and my fellow troopers have saw over the last several years of this street racing. It's constant here in Gaston County, especially on 95. You travel east and west of the state, you see the street takeovers where nobody cares until something like this happens to a 6-year-old little boy who's trying to go home. I have spoke with Santiago that evening. Miraculously, based off of our information, Mr. Lagunas shouldn't have survived that collision. But I truly believe this is the reason he survived that collision, so that he can continue Liam's legacy and memorialize him with this law. I thank Mr. Page for this opportunity and for his astounding efforts to continue higher penalties for persons who are charged with these crimes. I thank you to the legislatures for your support. Even as retired now, I know my fellow troopers, they need that backup. All law enforcement needs that backup, not only from the district attorney, but also from the legislatures, so that when certain circumstances arise such as these, we do have laws that are in place to protect the families and also protect the normal traveling citizens of North Carolina. Thank you.
This time I want to ask Brandy and Santiago to come forward if they would like to provide some remarks.
Thank you for being here. It's been a long journey for me. It's a long way to recovering. June 26, after I have a family time with my kids, having dinner, went and have ice cream, and I was going home. Don't know that it's gonna happen. I'm here because I want to share this with people, because my son loves to help people. And as a father that night, two irresponsible people take a lot, half of my life away from me. Because as a father, we want to see our kids grown. We want to see our kids getting married, having kids. And because two people that night, they're not being responsible, they take that away from me. And not only from me, for his mom, for the brother, his sister, and I just want to say thank you to those people that was there for me that night, and for everybody that trying to make this happen. The reason why I'm here is because every day people traveling in the road with their kids, and it's not fair to them to go through what I went through or what I'm going through because of somebody else's fault. So I just want to say thank you for everybody. And
Okay. Bear with me. I don't know if to look up, to look down, because either way, this is really hard. Liam was the best. He was strong, he was funny, he was kind, he was everything that you would think life should be about. That was Liam. I can't express how grateful I am for everybody who worked on Liam's case, because I wasn't there. And that phone call that night changed my life. Liam was supposed to just be visiting with his dad and his brother and sister. And I got a phone call about 9:25 that night. And they didn't know if Liam was okay. And I didn't know if my baby was okay. And I didn't really know anything. So instinct was, my baby needs me. Well, what I discovered was much more than just visiting with his dad. You heard Santi technically still shouldn't be here. And we have our reasons that we know why he's still here. And Liam's Law is everything about that. It takes two to have a child, And so we lost a link in that with Liam not being here. And it's not natural. It's not. It goes against everything that being a parent's about, because most people live for their kids, you know? Like, we're selfless. We want them to be everything and have everything and be able to grow up with their friends and go to college. And, well, Liam could have been your brother. He could have been your nephew. He could have been someone. He could have been your son. And so I think that's the main thing here is we want to help other families, even if it had to be this way. I know that this law would really make an impact, and I've met some amazing people along the way, and every single one of you have a reason, you know, your own reasons and things that personally connect you to this, and I'm so grateful for that, because we can't do it on our own, and we need the help of our state and everybody else that knew Liam or heard about Liam or helped his case, you know. And I'm not sure what it would be like if we didn't get justice, you know. So that's very important for us. And thank you, because I can't say thank you enough. But I'm very grateful, and thank you.
Thank you, Brandy. Thank you, Santiago, for those remarks. You heard from them that Liam loved, as a 6-year-old, he loved helping people. And I think that truly is the vision and goal for Liam's Law, is that we help people, that no other father bringing his son home from ice cream has to endure what Santiago Lagunas lived on June 26th and has lived every day since. And no mother receives a phone call like Brandy received. That is the goal of Liam's Law, is to prevent these horrible, unspeakable tragedies from happening in the future. We also want to deter street racers from taking part in this activity. North Carolina has a strong racing history, but that racing should be at the Charlotte Motor Speedway, not on US Highway 74. Street racing has no place on I-85 or any of our other public streets. And so I asked not only Representative Torbett, but his colleagues to co-sponsor, to vote, and to make law, Liam's Law, to continue his legacy of helping others and to make our streets safer here in North Carolina. And at this time, we're happy to address any questions that the press might have about this bill. Absolutely. So specifically, what was absent or missing, and really with Gracie Eaves' case more than anything, what was missing was the element of malice. It was difficult for us as a prosecutor to prove malice in that case against Miss Eaves. Mr. Cobb, he had a history of motor vehicle offenses, including impaired driving, that we could, under North Carolina law as it stands today, we could prosecute him for second-degree murder. What Liam's Law, the tool that specifically Liam's Law gives us, is the ability to prosecute folks like Gracie Eaves, who may not have that extensive traffic history, but engage in street racing and take the life of a 6-year-old little boy. Prosecutors across the state will now have the ability to prosecute those street racers for second-degree murder, or the equivalent, a B2 felony.
How confident are you with this bill?
Well, our legislature over the last few years has done some really good things for the people of North Carolina. We've gone and I've met with Representative Torbett, Representative Loftus. We've discussed measures for fentanyl They've delivered on those, and I'm confident that they can deliver on this as well. I truly believe our legislature has the public safety in its heart, and as a chief objective and a goal. They support our law enforcement. They've supported prosecutors across the state, and I hope they will give us yet another tool to allow us to keep our streets safe. So this bill was introduced yesterday by Representative Torbett. So it has just been filed. It is a brand new bill. And the main reason we called this press conference today was to get the word out, to get folks talking about it. We would ask folks at home who are watching or reading about this story and who feel compelled to act to contact their legislators, whether you live in Cabarrus County or Wake County or Mecklenburg County. Contact your legislator today so that we can get moving with Liam's Law and get the ball rolling and have this bill become law here for the people of North Carolina. Any other questions? All right. Well, listen, we thank you for coming today. I think there are three things that the parents, and I'm speaking as a father myself, there are three things that parents want for their kids and want for this community. We want safe homes, we want safe schools, and we want safe roads. And Liam's Law will help our roads become safer, so thank you very much.